Okay.
All right, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Um, it's August the 7th. And my little mantra here, which I quickly will tell you. Um, the slaughterhouse of failure is not in my destiny. I will persist until I succeed. This is, I think it's something the Marines have too. They will never give up. And right now is the fruits of never giving up. Through all the ups and downs, not giving up eventually will prove, if you're on the right track, on the right vehicle, and so on, that you'll succeed. So today I'd like to talk about adaptability and time. By the way, Dan Burke may join us. He's doing something as well because we had planned a really cool talk today. And so I'll wait and we'll do that next week together with him. In the meanwhile, I'm going to talk about adaptability and time. Time is actually our biggest asset, but also our biggest enemy. And and right now, where we are with this whole situation in this uncharted waters, changing the direction of our sails during the storms is what we have to learn to do constantly right now. We have our own experience, we have our own way of doing things, and then suddenly everything's changed. And we're seeing people without any experience and therefore no fear coming forward, being adventurous and trying new things and being successful. One of the inhibitions we've got is when we have failed, we become a little bit more cautious. When people who have not failed um, don't have that worry about it, and so they just go straight forward. And we're seeing right now tremendous progress being made by some very young people through social media, Facebook, you know, and LinkedIn and Twitter and so on. These are assets which we've got, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But right now, I'd like to just try and put in our minds, we've got this collective confusion right now. And that brings out the best and the worst in each of us. Some of us are angry. Some of us have more compassion. It's an emotional roller coaster. And every day we're getting like confused statistics about what's going on. And it's this way. No, it's that way. Oh, no, it's the other way. And all of these things are detrimental to our way of being able to be calm and analytical and see through all of that. And that's what we really have to look at, because all of these confused things are adding fire to the uncertainty. What's true and what's not? Who can we trust? Who can we can't? Who can we not? And, these are all things that slow us down. These are my famous Vahambiki thorns. Every time we hook into something, it just slows us down some more and more. So if we can take time out to introspect, reevaluate our positions, our emotional positions. There's an app which is called Calm, and it's just the sounds of water or the sounds of the wind or something like that. It's important periodically to get into that, just to switch everything off. So in the past 4 months, we've been in totally uncharted waters. Nobody knows with certainty anything. Nothing. Every day is a new surprise. We've got new studies coming out for this coronavirus. Is it this way? Is it that way? What is our future? What do we know, what we don't know? And what do we not know? So we thought it was going to be really a temporary thing, just a couple of months. That was it. But right now, who knows? Again, we don't know. The advantage of of where we are is that we are able to know what we should not be doing. That's an advantage because it eliminates a lot of guesswork. And we look at where we are and where the advantages, even though we're stuck at home, we're under sort of domicile arrest. Um, there are advantages. For example, in my case, the cost of travel has gone down to nothing. Nothing. I don't even have to dress. I mean, I'm using the same four t-shirts or five t-shirts. I mean, not the same, but I mean, five different t-shirts. I haven't gone to my cupboard for months. I haven't worn a tie for months. I haven't had to wear a suit. Nothing, no change. Driving. Here's something that's really important too. You know, the time of driving. Think about it. If we only spend 2 hours a day driving, just 2 hours a day, by 5 days a week would be 10 hours a week. By 50 weeks a year is 500 hours. Since it's now useful time, where we're at home and we're able to make it useful, 500 hours divided by 8 would be 63 days of the year that we've just sitting on our gluteus maximus watching the windscreen. So time now is something that we've actually recuperated because we're able to focus a little bit better on what we're doing, what we should be doing, on how we should be doing it. Um, what we focus on grows. So we have things that we know. We know we've got incredible asset with people. We've got we've got a lot of great talent. And these talents are now all looking around and saying, right now, which way are we going? And this is where leadership has to come in a big way. We have to be sure ourselves of how we think and why we think and how we can expand on the positive things, expand on the facts that we know that are good, and just eliminate and don't worry about the stuff that is irrelevant, which we now know what is relevant. We just let it go. So, LinkedIn, Zoom, can you imagine what an incredible asset that is? Or those are, where we're able to connect with anybody at any time in any part of the world in face-to-face time and have a whole group of people. Every day we have our Zoom calls, and sometimes we've got 9 people on, sometimes we got 4, sometimes we got 1, sometimes we got 25, sometimes we got 70. And these are all calls and that we can do with our people, with our teams, and help them expand, help them grow, help them multiply. So just by way of example, this month we've got, I think, 7 brand new brand reps who started in the last 3 months. 7 have become brand reps. And this is really cool stuff because it's all done with a new set of rules, a new set of a new game plan. So adaptability, we are adapting. Time, we're now understanding how we can use it better. We can use our time better. Before we were so busy running around to see the assets that we really had. We were always busy running around. Well, now we're forced not to run around, and we're forced to introspect and see and expand on what we've got. And we've got some incredible talented people. And we've got all the resources, every single resource that we can imagine, we've got. Scott, do you want to comment anything about this?
I think the biggest thing as you're kind of going through, these changes and stuff, and you talk about, you went through, the amount of time driving. I notice, for myself, my wife and I have talked about this multiple times. We've got, we have 6 children, and before COVID, we had so many different activities. We were always, constantly running. I felt like my day got really busy about the time they got out of school. And it's been nice how we've been able to redirect that time and use it differently, both for business as well as for our family. But time is a such an important commodity, and so something that far too often we just kind of you know don't really think about how we're using it. But when it comes to this business, it's become so much more effective. Like you said, with with LinkedIn and all these different things, but even just Zoom and FaceTime, and the ability to work from home has gotten so much easier. I mean, I haven't traveled much, even before this pandemic, for a few years, because it was just as effective from my computer as I was from going different places and spending all this time on planes and here and there. And and I think that that's the biggest thing we got to look at, is how can we adjust our lives, how can we adjust what we're doing, uh, how can we learn new skills and uh, new technologies and things that we can use to be more effective at what we're trying to accomplish. Whether that's placing scanners, uh, building our team, um, doing social cells, whatever the case may be. Building revenue for our business has never been as simple as it is right now, with the ability to tie into so many different technologies and use those technologies to help spread, you know, the message. Even things like, we talk so often about, we've got to do this presentation and things like that. How many recorded presentations we have that you can send people, and different messages, and recorded Zoom meetings and different things like that, so that the first time they hear about it, it doesn't necessarily have to be you. You can send them something and say, hey, watch this 10-minute presentation or 20-minute presentation or whatever the case may be, so that they know whether or not they really want to move forward and talk to you. And but it's all about leveraging your time, because there's only so much of it in a day. And we can spin our wheels forever if we had to do everything ourselves. And I think a lot of times people come into this business, it's the ones that are really focused. I mean, the ones that are on these calls early in the mornings and consistently trying to move things forward. We're all type A personalities. We want to get things done, we want to be in control. I mean, all of that stuff kind of plays into what we're trying to do. And sometimes we need to realize, hey, if we utilize the system, if we utilize the tools, we utilize some of these other things that have already been put in front of us, it'll help each and every one of us move these forward, on a daily basis. And that's what becomes most important as we really try to make that happen, and leverage our time and use what's in front of us. So, I mean, every time you talk about time, Lawrence, that's really what I start to think about, is how can I better use my time? How can I make everything happen, around me, without having to, necessarily be there, all of the time to do that.
Well, in fact, if we think about it, we've got incredible assets from the company. We've got my site for shopping. We've got a website that the company's given to us for in our back office. So we've got a virtual shop with all the products that we want to highlight. We can send an email to hundreds of people at a time and direct them to our shopping site. We've got corporate videos. How many wonderful, really, really good corporate videos are there? You can send a video done by the company, from Dr. Joe Chang down to, well, I don't say down, but to all of this, any of this, the scientists, like, for example, um, we've got Tanner Gibb, I think Tanner Gibbs' videos on YouTube are spectacular. Those are assets that we've got that we can use. We don't have to spend any time on it. We just got to learn where they are and what their content is and share that. Um, you know, we've got our own office, back office, which the company has done for us to keep track of everything we're doing. So we can now redirect our time in much more positive ways by being able to administer the information that we have that's done for us, um, to helping the people that we want to help progress. And I think this is another huge asset, which is time saving. All the work that's done by the company for us that we never even thought about before, or we scratched the surface, but we've got a lot of it. You think so, Scott?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I, it comes to, when I got started in this business, I was 22 years old. I didn't know anything about the science. I was trying, obviously I was actually studying it, in school and wherever I could. I was making sure I was studying it, every day, just to so that I could sound knowledgeable and understand what people were talking about. But when it really came down to it, it was far more about me knowing what to use and where to find the answers than actually knowing the answers.
Yeah.
Because so many times, if I told somebody, this used to drive me nuts. It just infuriated me when I started this business. But I would talk to somebody. I talk to friends, people that I've known for years and years, and I'd talk to them and I'd tell them something, and they'd just kind of hem and haw and be like, "Oh yeah, that's okay." And then I'd put them on the phone with my sponsor, who they probably didn't even know in a lot of cases, and he'd tell them word for word, because I'd basically memorized what he had said, and he would say word for word what I had just said, and all of a sudden they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's really interesting," or something, and it would drive me nuts. I was like, "I just told you that," like I would, in my head, I wouldn't obviously say it to him, but I'd be like, "You got to be kidding me," and so many times it's actually almost more beneficial to show them something online, or show them, send them something that they could watch or they could read, at, you know, print or video or audio. Everybody, learns differently. And so we have these different tools that are available to people, but it's so much more effective to get people in front of that than even tell it to them yourself. And that was very difficult for me to learn at the beginning of this. And the more that I've gotten effective at that, instead of just simply answering questions every time every time I was asked a question, if I had to become the expert at it, or I had to sound like I was the expert at it, I wasn't near as effective as if I just said, "Hey, you know what? That's a really great question. Let me send you the answer, or something you can look at. Let me, you go to this website, take a look at it, and use those tools, to be able to do that." That's where we've become far more effective.
In fact, with the webinars that we're doing, we're obviously explaining some of the mechanics of what we're doing and how we're doing it and attitudes and what have you, but we're also adding in some of the corporate videos, and also some of the testimonial videos, because as you've just said, hearing something or seeing something from a third party just seems to give it more weight. I remember, with my kids, I used to talk to them about whatever, and I'd tell them what I thought, and they thought I was, and yet they'd go and, 2 years later, meet some bum on the side of the road somewhere, and he would say the same thing, and that was a genius. My God, Dad, did you hear that? The guy's a genius. All right, well, I told you, so I've been telling you that but they heard it for somebody else. So I think the visual part of it as well is important. And now we can not only reinforce it with a conversation, but we can reinforce it by putting a face to the name, to the conversation, so that when we have a three-way, it's a three-way video conference or a five-way video conference added to, and then we can add the more tools to it, which are some of these corporate videos.
It's one of the things that's come out of these last few months. It used to be a lot more difficult to introduce like a Zoom meeting or a webinar to people, for the, I think for the masses. And now that technology has been utilized by everybody. And so they're very used to being able to do that. I know a number of years ago, John McClellan, he had gotten actually really sick from valley fever in Arizona, and so he wasn't able to leave his house. He's able to work very sporadically, but he wanted to still be effective, and so he did everything over Zoom. And this was, I want to say this is about 7 or 8 years ago, and he started just doing one Zoom meeting a day himself, and then it started going, and he became the fastest growing leader in the whole company. And at the peak, his team was doing, I think he said at some point, close to 500 Zoom meetings a day,
Wow.
because they were all just doing their own meetings, and he did two of them a day. And he said it got to the point where if his next door neighbor wanted to know what he was doing, he would send him home and they'd get in front of the computer and get on Zoom, because he had all the videos that he could splice in there and show, and he had the PowerPoints, and he also wanted his neighbor to know, hey, you don't have to be in front of somebody. You have to, utilize this technology, and you can get in front of anybody in the world. And I just remember when, him telling me that story after he won the Mercedes or whatever car it was that New Skin awarded him that year, as part of the convention, for growing so fast. And that was kind of the driving factor. He was utilizing that system and utilizing the technology. Um, so same thing Deborah just put on here on the chat. It said New Skin's really stepped up with their corporate videos, that are available. Also collateral videos that we've put together, that are here on the Facebook group. They're also that you can access through, office.hcpn, so, things like that, we're trying to, get those videos so that people can get those out and utilize those, for everybody.
Yeah. The thing is, again, when we talk about time and adaptability, which is the point of this call, time, the whole business, our entire business is about leverage. That's what our business is about. It's about leverage. It's about, Paul Getty said, I'd rather have 1% of the effort of 100 people than 100% of my own effort. Well, that's, what a logical statement. Okay, of course, duh. So our business is about this. It's about leverage. It's about leveraging our time with teams. It's about leveraging our time, for example, using the tools that we've got. And they're very, very good tools. They're very well done. They're very professional. And we don't have to spend any money on that. Nothing. We don't spend any money on anything that we do as our tools. All we've got to do is be able to guide people to where the information is and show them where it is. For example, I've always said, if I speak to a dentist or a cardiologist or a pediatrician or a gastroenterologist, there's no way I could answer any of these questions, but I know where to get the answers. And that's what this is about. It's about being able to know where to get the answers, where to get the information, and what information to give people at the right time. And we have it all. And I'm so impressed, and I keep on about being so in love with the company because it continues to be, to step up to the challenge. I've always said, science, technology, and innovation is the passport to the future. That's been my mantra for years. And here it is, science, technology, and innovation. So we have it. And it's so exciting because we have it all. We've just got to put everybody in front of it.
No, I mean, you're so correct in the fact that you know, so many good people as part of this team and part of this company have put together programs and and presentations and videos and you know white papers and all this different type of stuff that we just need to use it. And I get calls all the time of if we just had this, I think it would be very helpful. And I think it's one of those things where as a leader and as someone as part of this team, well, let's create it. And if there's something you think we're lacking, let's start putting something together. And let's collaborate and let's make that happen. um and the reason we have what we do have now is because somebody took the initiative to do it. And and it takes a lot of reiterations of making that work, or putting that together and getting it to come to fruition correctly. But it's one of those things where you don't need my permission to do it. If you think that you need something for your group, it comes back to making that decision, and putting that together, and leading your team and leading your group and empowering your team, to do the same. And I think that becomes very important for all of us.
I remember a couple of years ago, somebody saying, I live in Boise, Idaho. It's very difficult for me to really get a business going from here. Well, think about it. Provo, Utah. I mean, you have to find it with a magnifying glass on the world map or a microscope. And yet it's an international company in 50 countries. And this is vision. These are people who had vision. They called it New Skin International when they probably didn't even know anything outside of Utah. And now it's a very, very reputable company that is international on the stock market as well, rated among the top 100 most trustworthy, by the way. I keep on saying that. But those people who had the vision, international. Again, every week, last night again, I had another webinar with South America. I have every Thursday. We had 7 different nationalities on there, all Spanish, but 7 different countries represented. How fabulous is that? It's really cool. So it's just, there are no limitations. The only limitations we have are the cobwebs in our own mind to whatever we want to do. And right now we have everything on a tray. We've got everything on a platter. James Tier says, for the time calculation, take 24 hours minus sleep, eating, life maintenance, being at my job to get the days freed up. 6 minutes a day represents a week of my 6 minutes a day represents a week of my personal free time. There you go. 6 minutes a day represents a week of his free time. Wow. Well, we have it. We have now control of our time. We didn't before. This is cool. Before, we didn't have control of our time. We had to catch a flight. And to catch a flight, a 2-hour flight, a 2-hour journey, we would have to prepare, we'd have to be at the airport 2 hours ahead. We'd waste the whole day. We are now in control of our time. How cool is that? That is really cool.
Now we just got to make sure we use it right.
Yep, absolutely.
That's the responsibility, is and use it to the best of our abilities. And, and I have thoroughly enjoyed, or say this is the best part to me about this whole pandemic has been the reset and understanding, okay, what do I really want to spend my time on? And how do I really want to utilize it? And are we, for me as well as, are we doing the right things with our kids? And, all those things you start thinking about to make, as part of your life. And, it's really brought to fruition how grateful I am for this business and for what it's brought to me, and what it allows for my family and I to do and to have, and the time freedom and everything else that goes along with it is just fantastic.
Well, I just want to tell you this on the time thing. I think I'm tone deaf because I don't know the words of a single song in any language. I don't know what the titles are. I don't know the singers. I don't know the songs. I know nothing. But I love music, classical music. So guess what? About 3 years ago, my wife gave me a guitar, and she said, "Honey, there you go." And I said, "What time am I going to do this?" Guess what? I'm actually spending time learning to play the guitar. So I challenged Dan Burke, or Michael Cook actually challenged. He said, which of you going to do it? So we said, game on. So we got Dan Burke and we got myself now. And by Christmas, we're going to be serenading you with our new talents that we've learned thanks to the additional time we've got. So blessings to everybody. Scott, I don't know, go ahead.
Oh, I look forward to hearing it. I look forward to hearing it. Here's That's awesome. That's
It's
awesome.
fun.
Well,
It's fun. Okay, well, everybody, thank you very much for being on the call. I hope everybody got something out of it. Scott, as usual, thank you so very much for your help. Thanks everybody else for being on the call. Blessings to everybody. And go for it, man. Now's the time. You got it.
that's fantastic. Have a great weekend.
Thank